Hello out there, and what I have for you today is a quick review of this zero tolerance knife. This is the ZT0770CF. It was actually a gift to me from my wife for Christmas last year, and it was my first ever zero tolerance knife. And actually, it is still my only ZT knife that I've ever owned. I've never really been a huge fan of the zero tolerance line because a lot of those big overbuilt knives, we call them tanks, that's really never been my style, and the tactical knives either, not really my thing. But recently, the past couple years, ZT has started putting out some nice higher end EDC style, like lightweight folders, this being a great example of that. And I'm really interested in a lot of those knives that are coming out. There's one by Dmitry Sinkovich. I can't remember the model number, but I really want to get my hands on that. A few others as well, so hopefully that will happen down the road. But for now, this is the only one I have, and it's definitely the one we are focused on today. Now this knife is pretty relevant in the marketplace right now because a number of variants have been coming out recently with aluminum handle scales in different colors instead of the carbon fiber. Right, so those are available now as well if you prefer that type of look and feel. Those knives also have Elmax blade steel, just like this. This is actually my first experience with Elmax as well. I've never owned another knife with Elmax, and I've heard that it's pretty similar to M390 in the way that it uses, and while that may be true, using a type of steel on one knife doesn't really give you enough experience with it to make a judgment of the steel in general. It takes a lot of experience over a number of different models and different designs and grinds and edge geometries and heat treats for that matter for you to really have an understanding of the steel and not just the way the steel performs on one specific blade. But since we're talking about this knife, the way the steel performs on this blade is wonderful. All right, it is absolutely fantastic. We've excellent edge retention. Or the edge has not really dulled at all over the time that I've used it. I've used the knife pretty hard. I won't really say that I've abused it, but maybe some lesser steels would have chipped or dulled quickly or had some kind of integrity issues. But this has been just a very, very sturdy blade. Corrosion resistance for this steel should be very good, but with the stonewash finish and the fact that I'm cleaning it just about every time I'm using it, then I haven't had any issues whatsoever at all. Haven't really been able to test that, and honestly, don't need to. All right. Other stuff about the blade. You can see this really unique and nice edge shape. It's just a really nice blade shape all across the board with this sweeping down feature that gives you a bird's bill sort of look. And then, I don't know, I really think that there's a slight recurve right here. And sometimes I look at the blade and I don't think there is, and then other times I look at it and I can see it. But what that does is whenever you capture whatever media you're cutting, it sort of brings the paper or the cardboard or whatever it is down into this belly portion of the knife where it just executes extremely well. Functional and very, very practical blade shape, and a lot stronger at the tip than you would think with a very distinct point like this. But you can see how thick it is here at the top as well. All right, moving back to the handle scales, we've got some really nice carbon fiber, good texture on the carbon fiber, no real voids that I've been able to see. It is not an open frame construction because you've got this G10 backspacer, and the backspacer is pretty neat because part of it's depressed, beneath the carbon fiber, and the ridges are above, so you can actually get a good feel to it, which is nice. The carbon fiber is especially thick too. It's a good thick big piece of carbon fiber, and you have inset nicely nested liners that go about 2/3 of the way back. Maybe you can see the locking liner right there, how far that goes back, and there's one on the other side. I'm going to try to bring in another light to see if we can capture that. You can maybe see it right in there where it ends. All right, and that just gives the knife a little bit more strength and rigidity, which I'm not sure it needed, but the good news is that because those are so well nested, it doesn't really add to the weight too much. So let's just take a look at that while we're here. Alright, so the weight on this knife is 3.08 ounces, which is perfect. I mean perfect, guys. It feels even lighter, but it feels perfectly strong and sturdy as well. Alright, the action on this knife is exactly what you would want from Speedsafe. It's just quick and strong. Quick and strong, lock up like a vault, just the way a ZT should, so I'm told. You can see the lockup on the liner is pretty much exactly where you want it to be. Alright, the centering, wonderful as well. Let's open it again and talk about the ergonomics. So this knife, like I said, the carbon fiber has a really good texture, a little bit of grip to it, which I love. I don't really like the smooth carbon fiber all that much. But this just feels great in the hand. You know, I've said before, I have small to medium hands. There's enough room on this handle for people with bigger hands and bigger fingers than mine. The jimping is actually very functional, good and grippy, and it looks, when you zoom in on it, it looks like it's rounded a little more than you would want, but it actually grips the thumb very well. Alright, so good jimping there, get really good traction, and then obviously the flipper protects the finger here, so just very strong overall. You can choke up if you need to. That's pretty comfortable as well. Alright, and then flipping to the back side. Here, let's turn it all the way around, take a look at this clip. We have a 2-position pocket clip. It is tip up only, nice and deep carry, reversible to left-hand carry, and right-hand carry, of course, is how it comes. Alright, so basically only positive things to say about this knife. The one thing that I will go out on a limb and sort of say, not really what I love, is I just really don't like when knives have different color hardware. I love uniformity in my knives, and sometimes with expensive knives too, it just drives me crazy that, you know, you can have a black clip and 3 black screws and then the pivot here is not black. You know, I want everything to be silver or everything to be black, and that's just me being a little picky, but that's all I really got to say that's not good about this knife. So, I mean, if that's the only thing there is, then we're in good shape. All right, also though, about the pivot screw, what I can say is when you, in my experience, some of the decorative pivots I've come across have not been as functional as just the simple screws, and these pivots are good. They work well. They actually adjust nicely to help you keep the blade centered if you need to. But again, that hasn't been an issue at all yet. And yeah, I mean, everything else sort of checks out the way that I want it to. Didn't really talk about lockup that much, but yeah, it is flawless, and there isn't much to complain about with this knife. One more thing that I will say, and I'm not the big person to talk about price, but it always seems to come up in the comments, and I want to address it anytime I can, as quickly as I can, is that some of the other knives I've been reviewing lately, like the Spyderco Junior, the Ouroboros, the Little Lum, a lot of them have been pretty expensive for the quality of the materials. And this is one of those knives that is not expensive for the quality of materials comparatively. You know, the Ouroboros that I recently reviewed is at $167. This one, I think, is down to $160, usually sells at around $180. So for $180, Elmax steel carbon fiber handle scales. I mean, this is, I'm not going to say it's a steal because it's $180. It's an expensive knife, understood. But, I mean, there's a lot of bang for your buck here. And, you know, with some of the knives that are out there where, you know, you don't get bang for your buck, especially, you know, the people I've been conversing with about some of those other knives I've reviewed, this is one of them that you certainly see where the $180 goes. You know, the last thing that you want is to spend your hard-earned money on something and then get a product and look at it and say, well, not sure why I spent that much on it. But this one, when you hold this knife in your hands, you can see where every dollar went, and there's value there. So again, that's my last recommendation for the knife. If you have any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, like I've always said, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you, whatever you've got to say. But keep in touch and keep watching for more videos. I appreciate your time, and I will talk with you soon. Take care.